Hey guys, so today we've got a Dogwood brush, the same one I used recently, a B13 with a cool Briar Brushworks Dogwood hybrid handle, and I put it back in the water to soak, so we'll see it in a little while. And I'm going to be using the same blade I used recently, the Nacet, with about a dozen shaves on it. Now here are the two new items for today's shave. Melange from Barrister and Mann. The Dune movie released recently, and he's a big fan of that series. I'm a big fan of the one back, in what, the 80s or something like that. Um, and I need to see the new one, right? But this is his kind of interpretation of what that scent, the spice of that movie and book and series there, what it might have smelled like. And as a fan, how cool is that when you can make a product with a motif like that, with pick something else you're interested in, a big movie franchise or something, and then just be able to put out something cool. So I'm looking forward to trying this guy out. We'll see if he's unique or see if he kind of smells like some of the other um, scents that are out there. Like the seasonal, not seasonal, the herbal kind of things, the spicy herbal, um, frankincense, those kind of exotic spices. So we'll see. I've been smelling it a little bit. I think I get some of that clove. So we'll see. We'll see what transpires here. It is the Barrister and Mann base that's newest, called the Omnibus. I have tried Omnibus once, and that was the last shave, and that was Leviathan. I know that I love the Leviathan scent, but I used a little bit less soap. I figured out the last time that my quarter teaspoon, which is a pretty typical approach I have to dishing out soap, it didn't quite give me maybe enough soap, enough lather. And so this base from Barrister and Mann looks like it's a little bit more needy than past ones, and indeed other soaps on average. And so this time I'm gonna use more product, and so that'll be something I'm trying on this shave is more product, more Omnibus. See if we get a better lather, and um, you're going to be enjoying the seasoning as well of the scent. And then here, if you have been paying too much attention within the past several months, you've heard that Chiseled Face has brought out a new double-edged razor, and it's a machined item that I think they said that they were gonna. This one, I think this one's titanium. Sure feels like it, and they found a way to mill it maybe that was a little less costly, and so they have a cheaper version out there, and I don't think this is one of those, but I do see some milling marks. They're very faint, but it hasn't been polished, and so this might be one of those types, um, and it's got the kind of wavy textured handle here. You've got the waist right here that looks like maybe a good place to hold. Center of gravity is kind of right, not quite right in the middle of the waist right there, but a little bit more toward the head. So we'll see how that handle works out. But take a look at the profile here. You can see we've got some overhang from that top cap here. And so we're going to have a bit of a lack of support for the bottom of the cutting edge. And sometimes with a lot of razors like the DE89 type series, the Blackland Dart, um, you don't get with a narrow support system right here that doesn't reach out to the end of the blade. You often end up with kind of a scrapey feel that doesn't have a lot of as much smoothness to it as something like a carve, a wolfman, a fatigues, something that goes out closer to the edge of the blade, right? But what I'm hearing is that despite this, what looks like it could be an issue, I'm hearing from folks like HD Shaves, my friend Walden, and Jeff was online as well. He's got some numbers behind his name. I don't know what I think it's like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 or something. Um, they're saying this is different. It's a different animal. I'm hearing reports that riding the cap, meaning keeping the handle a little more perpendicular than normal, might be the best way to go. But let's try it out, see what happens. Okay. So, what we can definitely see right away is that the bottom, the safety bar here, it extends out a lot further than a lot of comparable razors that have similar lack of support. And so that might make all the difference in the world, right? That might be why this guy is being seen in a different light and experienced. It's really providing guys with a whole different experience, and I think that's pretty cool. Here's the kind of etching on the bottom of it. It says, it gives a number, a serial number. It tells the year, made in USA, and chiseled face. So, pretty cool. All right, and Walden, wonderful guy, has loaned this to me and to try out, and I'm really looking forward to it. So let's get that blade in the razor. I enjoy the Nacet in many razors, and so he's a great one to use as a test. As you can see, probably we're not dealing with a small amount of stubble. I mean, this really might be 3 days of stubble. I kind of lost count. I had my weekend kind of passed like a blur, and it was filled with family stuff, and sometimes shaving needs to take a back seat, right? I mean, this kind of shaving, I mean, I could have stuck in like a 10-minute shave if I wanted to, but that's one of the problems with night shaving. If you've got kind of drama in your life, most of the time when you wake up early and shave, that's before any drama happens, right? And you can kind of always get in a shave in the morning. And so, yeah, let's take a look at that. So, yeah, we've got, I mean, wow, we're looking at 7 millimeters maybe is my guess of overhang here before we get to the blade edge. And is it positive exposure? It does seem to be slightly positive exposure, but not by much. And there does seem to be a pretty significant gap right there. But this may be a wonderful lesson. Gap is just the distance from the safety bar up to the blade edge, right? But if you stick the more the safety bar comes out, then that lessens the exposure, how much of the edge sticks out past the plane. If you recess the safety bar, then you start to get more aggressive because you're increasing the exposure of the blade. You're exposing it more. And so by taking these safety bar, kind of an extended safety bar design here, then you can take that big gap and make it feel less big. So this will be very interesting, and I'm glad I didn't lock it down too hard because I forgot to put on that washer. Sorry, I don't see any marks. I need to be more conscientious about that. All right, washer's in place. There we go. All right, and while my hands are still dry, it'll be easier to press the sample into the bottom of my lather bowl. So remembering that last time I used just a 1/4 teaspoon, and I could have, I mean, it probably would have worked okay, but I just, yeah, this is a this is a heaping. I mean, this might even, I mean, this is approaching 1/2 teaspoon right there. It's so heaping that it really might be that. I might have had enough lather to get the job done last time if I would have quit adding water, but sometimes when I look at that volume and I think I need more lather than that, and so what I do is I will add more water to get the volume I need, and then if I need more soap, then I can do that. But then the problem is that when you are dealing with a sample you can't really take the brush back to the soap tub and load up some more product like you can with a normal full-size tub. It's very soft at this point. My initial impression is that it's just kind of, it's some spices that I don't really care for. And don't you hate that when like a movie or something you really enjoy, there's a cool interpretation of it that you want to like, but you just, something about it you don't like. For instance, that brings to mind old Super Nintendo games. Back when I was in the Air Force, I used to play Super Nintendo with my buddies, and you'd look at the PX store to see when games would come out. And like, let's say you were a big Spider-Man fan. Maybe you'd read the comic books for years, and they would come out with a Spider-Man game for Super Nintendo. Well, as a Spider-Man fan, you think, I love the game, right? Well, it depends on the mechanics of the game. Did they give the guy the right action? Did they make the game interesting? It's a side scroller where he's shooting webs and swinging, yeah. But if that's not a fun action, then it could really be a thing that where it's a big downer for you because you enjoy Spider-Man so much, but it's just not a good implementation. Well, I don't think this is not going to be a good implementation. I think it just might be an implementation that doesn't match my own nose, and that's totally subjective thing. All right, so Omnibus. So this will be my second try with Omnibus, this time with more soap. Let's get my face wet. Well, we have got my whiskers nice and wet because as I was just kind of getting my face wet, I was reminded that I hadn't shaved in a few days, and the oils from my just naturally oily complexion were just in full effect. And I'm going to shake a lot of this water out here. I discovered for the first use of this just last time that I really enjoy it. The tips are very nice. I think it's going to work out to be a great brush that just happens to match what I like to enjoy in a brush. But I wanted to have the oils on my beard. I wanted them not to affect my lather in a negative way, and so during the break right there, I just had my Palmolive bar soap and I gave my face a wash. So with just a little bit of work, I've kind of got it working like that, looking like that. Oh yeah, some other notes are starting to come out now that it's wet. Looking very nice. It is very spicy smelling. I think 20 milliliters of water was what I used last time. So let's kind of get to that point almost, because surely if I've got more soap now with that same amount of water, everything that should at least be the amount of water I would need, right? This is a 28 millimeter brush, so it's kind of big. I'm glad I have my big bowl here. This lather is, this soap base I think is one that's kind of going to stay kind of low and gluey. I think he's added some oil type ingredients to help with post-shave feel, things like that. You can see how the splay of the brush, as it's filled with the lather, has just opened up and gotten huge. So if this is kind of a low lather, how do we tell when it's good to stop adding water? You know, that's a very good question. Look at the way that's moving down my brush. See, so let's just try it now and not add any more water. Let's just give it a little bit more work here just to make sure we have a good mix. And the water is distributed. The soap is distributed evenly everywhere. I haven't jumped into the Omnibus base full strength yet because I've got a bunch of Barrister and Mann soaps already that I just enjoy. The glissant base is wonderful. I've got some reserve soaps and I've got a few Excelsior soaps, so I'm not going to be destroying those. I'm not going to be using up those tubs anytime soon. Now I'm glad I chose to work this more. You can see that we've got a lot more quantity now of lather available. It just needed a little bit more time to come together and mix in. So what landmarks can this type of lather give us to know when it's done? We can look at its movement. Look at that, it's maintaining a little bit of structure there. Not sliding down the brush like it was a minute ago. You know what that proves? That it was just a wet spot before that was doing the sliding. And I didn't have a good mix at that time. Look how that got pretty thin. I can pull it up on my brush here and kind of work on shaking it off, and then watch the shape there. Look how thin that little drizzle got there. Let's just try this and see what happens. It looks like I've got plenty of lather to do the job. So let's just stop right here. Melange might be a different animal. Those gluey soaps have different landmarks than a lot of the ones that we've kind of been used to for a while. All right, get a little bit more water on my face and then we'll go at it. This knot holds a lot of lather. B13 batch is now done with in terms of declaration, making it. I don't think it really lasted too long. I'm really glad I had a brush made with it. It's much cheaper if you get your own handle somewhere and then send it to Scott instead of waiting around for one of his drops. That's also takes a lot of time and effort, because when his brushes drop, they are gone pretty quickly. Looks like this brush is so big that I'm able to hold maybe two passes of lather easily in the brush, even by my own standards. I like my lather so wet that often I can't hold a ton of lather in there. It just drips out. Well, this feels great. The brush here with the lather, even with this many days of stubble growth, sometimes the longer stubble kind of slow down the feel of your brush and the lather. Now with this buildup, it looks kind of like I need to add a little bit more water, so let's do that. Just several drops at a time here because we're fine tuning. And then if it looks like I'm getting a lot of buildup around the sides here, I'm going to kind of rake that in because it'll just kind of get wasted by dropping away. A few more drops of water in the brush. And I like that. I like that better. You don't need a 28mm brush. But this happened to be one that came along that was B13 that I was hunting for. I wanted to pick up a B13 before it became a little bit harder to get. And you can see this is acting a little pasty, even for this kind of, soap. So let's add some more water. And why not a little bit more? You can see it kind of gathering up around my goatee. Of course, everybody likes their lathers a little different. You may not want yours this wet. Well, we've had a nice long time here to help the lather to work into my skin. So it's going to protect well. And now I believe I've got the hydration. I think it could probably still go more, but I'm not going to do that. Let's just go ahead and use it. I could put more water into it. So I think I loaded more soap than I needed today. But hey, better more than less in this case. It's a little harder to rescue a lather from a little sample. All right, now, this will be my first time using this razor. Doing it on a 3-day growth is at least a 2-day growth. Is kind of asking a lot of it. And so if it's not a great experience, especially on the first pass, I'm not going to attribute it to the razor. I'll attribute it to just a more than usual amount of growth. So here we go. Whether I will need to adopt the attitude of riding the cap, I don't know. A little bit of, tugginess as it moves through this much hair is kind of to be expected in my experience. It's so light, you can really hold the razor by the end if you want. I'm kind of taking a balanced approach here in terms of not riding the cap, keeping kind of balance between the safety bar and the top cap. Walden said he wasn't really in a hurry to get this back, and so I don't feel like I need to hurry up and try a bunch of things right away. I can kind of try this balanced approach first, and then ride the cap maybe in another shave. Now it is being pretty scrapey, it's because of that overhang, that unsupported overhang. How does that Barrister and Mann lather feel here? Feels terrific. I mean, that's just kind of luxury, kind of oily, slick. I definitely feel like that got me a little bit of razor burn right there. A little, my technique may have a bit of aggression to it, to where my technique really needs to be more focused in terms of skin pulling and that kind of thing, Well, it's definitely an efficient razor, and this blade is working well in it in terms of cutting, because after that 3 days of growth, that one pass has taken down to where I don't really feel very much stubble. So that's very efficient. So to me, my first impression there is that it's too aggressive for me. And kind of on the scrapey side of the spectrum, but like I said, we want to make sure we speak of it and evaluate it fairly, because it is chopping down a whole bunch of growth. Now, what happens now, since we've done such a good job of taking down the stubble in the first pass, I really feel like the second and third passes here are more like a normal shave, because so much of the stubble has been removed. So let's switch to the across the grain, and for me it happens to be from, east to west. A lot of audio here, and that usually means the blade is moving across your skin and kind of vibrating as it does it. That's what produces the sound. It's really funny. Some guys will use a scrapey razor like this, and they'll call it smooth. They just have a different definition of smooth than I do. Definitely has kind of an old school feel with the scrapiness and a kind of a high gap razor. And one of the dangers I've experienced with kind of aggression like this is that in an effort to try not to nick myself, I will get a poor shave in this area here. We'll just, and in that sense, an aggressive razor is not going to give me a close shave, because it's too aggressive for me to get to try to ride that line and use it right, All right, there we go. Do I have any irritation right now? Do I have any tenderness right now? No. Has the comfort of the shave so far been high? No. The scrapiness feels just like that. It just kind of feels scrapiness. At this point, I'd rather have used a bunch of other razor options that I have instead of this guy. So I think he might be built for guys who like the scrapey, aggressive type razors, and there's definitely a market for that. All right. The Melange definitely has scent pieces that remind me of other kind of spicy scents, and so I don't think there's too much here that's going to be some new and exciting scent experience for the shavers out there. But if you, it definitely has a scent in there that I'm not a big fan of. Maybe it's something like clove or allspice or something like that. And that's just my own subjective preference, right? That doesn't mean it's bad at all. All right, so we'll splash a little bit of water on. Yeah, we're feeling pretty wet. Face feels very smooth. I'm sure I could walk away with this 2-pass shave. But sometimes a 3-pass shave, when you could just do a 2, is a good test for an aggressive razor. So I'll look forward to using this razor on a normal 1-day shave. But if it's aggressive for me right now and leaves me maybe with a little bit of tenderness after the shave, then that's probably a sign that it's going to do the same thing on a 1-day shave, because I've often found that what happens with more growth on that first pass, like I had today, that's a buffer. It kind of protects my skin a little bit from the aggression of the razor. And so then as the hair is gone, as the stubble is no longer there to protect, as you move through the shave, then the harshness of the razor is more impacting the skin. All right. This is kind of reminding me a little bit about the Dart, the Blackland Dart, and the scrapiness feel. And that's one that I actually, instead of opening up the handle to ride the cap more, I actually discovered that closing the handle to ride the safety bar, it was still a scrapey experience, but it made it not too aggressive for me. I could do that as a daily shave if I wanted to. So I will be trying that technique later with this razor. Okay, now this is kind of an enjoyable feel here. you can hear it's not as scrapey. Maybe this razor is one that I don't need to use when I've got a bunch of stubble on my face, you know. See, it's a lot more in control now. It's a lot more steady now than it was before. Gotta be careful right there. One wrong stroke. That's really interesting. It was much more comfortable, and that may be what guys are talking about with this razor. It didn't feel like an aggressive razor on that third pass. It felt more aggressive on the second pass. Interesting. So after checking on the closeness, I find that I don't have a great shave in terms of that, but it's a very nice shave. Average. There is a little bit of a few tips here that have a little bit of length to them, but due to the kind of potential aggression here on this razor, I don't really want to go back and try a touch-up. I'd rather just stop while I'm ahead. I'm not walking away from the shave with any kind of discomfort, and so let's just do that. While my skin is kind of wet, I want to use some of the Try This soap, Liniment from Declaration Grooming. I want to use this up before it goes bad. It's a older product. So the scent on this Barrister and Mann Melange, it's just in that family. It's got some of those notes that I'm just not as much of a fan of, as just a personal preference. And so if you like that family of spiciness, then then you'll probably be a fan of this one. All right, it didn't take a lot. Didn't take much. It's going to take me forever to use this up because it just, especially leaving my skin a little wet, it little goes a long way. The brush, really enjoyed the brush today. You can see a little bit of whiteness from the liniment, and it's going to absorb in just a few minutes, so no problem there. That amount of soap gave me plenty of lather. I've got 2 or 3 more passes left here in the bowl, so I didn't need to use quite that much of Omnibus. It'll be good to kind of gauge with repeated use how much soap I need to have with Omnibus, because to me that's kind of an important thing. If I have to use twice as much soap with Omnibus as I do other crope type bases, then to me that's a little bit of a ding. Now, to people who have large soap collections, they don't mind using up soap quicker because they've got a lot to get through, right? All right. I was glad to have the pleasant scent of this Try This soap to kind of be around me instead of the spiciness of the melange. I don't believe, though, too much of it carried through and is resonant on my face here, so I think we're good there. It'll be very interesting with this razor to try it more because it did what some aggressive razors haven't done there at the end in that it was kinder at the end than I expected. So we'll be watching that in the future. Performance-wise, Omnibus was terrific. Great slickness, great performance. I felt protected, so A+ there. Love the easy backbone of this knot. Soft tips. Continue to enjoy this guy. The weight of the razor was enjoyable. Didn't feel too light. The position of this little waist right here worked just fine. So everything very good in terms of handle design, the razor function and feel. So there we go. That's today's shave. Hope there's been something here to help you out. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves.